Hello, folks. It seems that Cyril Ramaphosa's feelings are hurt over Donald Trump's diplomatic approach. Now, that's unfortunate, especially given his umbrage is misdirected. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is disappointed by U.S. President Donald Trump's continued disregard for the use of diplomatic channels. Disregard for diplomatic channels. This should be interesting. The absence of basic diplomatic courtesies is rather disappointing. First, it's not unreasonable to expect that a country that you have established diplomatic, political, trade, and cultural ties with will at the very least engage over issues of concern before reaching ill-informed conclusions and decisions, said spokesman for the president, Vincent Maguenya. No, it's not unreasonable to engage over issues of concern. 100%. Well stated. So let's look at recent history, shall we? Did Ramaphosa approach the United States diplomatically before he lied to the world with his vaccine apartheid narrative over the COVID jabs? No. He never mentioned that South Africa refused to participate in the development of the jabs with its own pharmaceutical industry and then whined to the world that the West is racist. Nope, our embassy in Hatfield never got a phone call prior to the vaccine apartheid lie. December 6, 2022, the sanctioned Russian cargo ship Lady R docked at Simonstown Naval Base in the Western Cape Province. Not only did South Africa not inform the embassy in Pretoria of this provocative act, but it also stonewalled discreet, polite diplomatic overtures for more than 5 months, ignoring American requests about the ship and what it was doing there. On May 11, 2023, Ambassador Ruben Briggity publicly announced South Africa was supplying arms to Russia with the Lady R. Now, this only came after the U.S. government was exasperated at Pretoria's disrespectful disregard for diplomatic norms in rebuffing Washington's request to discuss the matter privately. Ramaphosa purportedly signed the Expropriation Without Compensation Act on December 20th of 2024. What we can confirm with certainty is that on January 23rd, 2025, hours after speaking to President Trump on the telephone to congratulate him on being sworn in, Ramaphosa made a show of signing the act for the cameras in Davos. Now, the ANC and Ramaphosa are painfully aware of the U.S. commitment to property rights, yet, given the opportunity to inform and or warn Trump in the earlier phone call, Cyril chose not to mention he would be signing it in Davos, knowing full well that the act clearly violates the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act requirement to respect private property rights. Now, perhaps Ramaphosa considers EWC simply an internal matter, even though favored duty-free trade status under AGOA for South Africa is an issue affecting Washington. If so, he should not take offense when President Trump does not bother to inform the ANC over internal domestic matters like turning off foreign aid or agreeing to accept refugees into America. These are domestic issues, not the ANC's business. At least by Ramaphosa's logic, that is. And second, dispatching a formal notification of these decisions ahead of their announcement would have been a courteous thing to do. 100%. A formal notification that you were hosting a sanctioned Russian cargo ship, one of your naval exercise with Chinese communists and sanctioned Russians, or enacting legalized land theft would have been the courteous thing to do, and we would have appreciated that. He said Trump had done this despite Ramaphosa stating that he was ready to engage with the U.S. Well, Pretoria likes to talk a lot, except when it comes to reciprocity, treating our diplomats like unwanted guests, ignoring their requests, and not informing the United States through diplomatic channels on key issues, but then whining that we didn't do it here. South Africa has always had differing viewpoints with the U.S. over certain issues, like we do with other trade and political partners. However, we have never had such an escalation of diplomatic tensions that are mainly escalating from one side of the relationship, said Maguenya. Talk about cognitive dissonance. One side? Well, he's spot on there. And the one side where provocation comes from is Pretoria. From the 75% poultry tariffs to the Lady R to the illegitimate International Court of Justice genocide case against the close American ally Israel, when the ANC stood silent over Myanmar, Sudan, China, and Rwanda's genocides. From the ANC's insulting treatment of America's friend Taiwan, demanding they close their diplomatic mission and move to Johannesburg as a trade office, to enacting legalized land theft. The affronts are too numerous to list in detail, but siding with Chinese communists, Russian autocrats, Cuban communists, and Iranian mullahs against America's interest eventually comes with a price tag. Specifically, no more gravy train or free handouts to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars annually. The ANC and Ramaphosa had better learn to stop insulting and biting the hand that feeds them. Ramaphosa has already cost South Africans $500 million a year in aid. That's 10 billion rand. Soon, he will cost them another $430 million in annual mineral sales and termination from preferential trade status under AGOA. Just to give an example of the provocations from Pretoria, just over the past 4 days, Ramaphosa and the ANC have, on Thursday, attacked America in the State of the Nation address with brazen, unwarranted threats. We will not be bullied. You think Trump didn't hear that? You weren't being bullied. You want to be bullied? Pay attention. Watch this space. Friday, they joined 83 other countries in a protest of President Trump sanctioning the rogue International Criminal Court, of which the United States is not a participant. On Saturday, they launched a disinformation campaign designed to mislead public opinion. It is of great concern that the foundational premise of this order lacks factual accuracy and fails to recognize South Africa's profound and painful history of colonialism and apartheid. Fails to recognize the history of colonialism and apartheid. Such blatant liars. The USA gave you $8.1 billion for HIV/AIDS alone. Never mind the hundreds of billions more buying South African goods, and granted you duty-free access without asking for reciprocity for our goods. The Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden regimes looked the other way as you engaged in revenge politics with over 140 racial discrimination policies. You destroyed state-owned enterprises, enriched your patronage pals, and impoverished 3 times as many black South Africans as did the National Party. Well done. Wow, if your goal is to make black people poor, you have 300% black people compared to the National Party. Far from not recognizing the past, the United States has over-generously looked the other way over shameful contemporary conduct, granting the ANC wide latitude to chart its course. On Sunday, the ANC lied to the media about the diplomatic relationship. If you want to understand why the ANC has cost South Africans cordial relations with Washington and billions in future aid, look no further than this insulting paragraph. It is ironic that the executive order makes provision for refugee status in the U.S. for a group in South Africa that remains among the most economically privileged, while vulnerable people in the U.S. and from other parts of the world are being deported and denied asylum despite real hardship. Vulnerable people are being deported and denied asylum. The only people being deported in the United States are criminals. It is beyond ironic to be lectured by a government full of xenophobes. The South African government and political parties call for and also deport criminal alien invaders who have violated their sovereignty. If Ronnie Lamola actually believes lecturing the U.S. for deporting criminals when Home Affairs does the same thing to illegal Zimbabweans, he's not only delusional, but he's also pretty dim. Pretoria is entitled to its sovereignty, but Lamola insults America for asserting its own. Pfft. Do they honestly expect good things to come their way, given how disrespectful Pretoria is to Washington? It seems Minister of Sports, Arts, and Culture, Gate McKenzie, feels that way. It's our second biggest trading partner. Where I think America is wrong is that they believe this nonsense and they've used improper channels. That's not how you speak to another president. Where Gate McKenzie is wrong is falling for the propaganda the ANC media are spreading. The ANC has consistently harmed U.S. national security interest. And as far as channels, it was Elon Musk who was contacted by Cyril Ramaphosa. Elon Musk is not a cabinet minister. He's not the vice president. He's not a member of Congress. He's none of that. You didn't go through our embassy. You went to Elon Musk. Talk about improper diplomatic channels. Seriously? Hello, Kettle. This is Pod. You're black. Gayton can also not explain away over 140 racially exclusive laws, forcing people to hand over hard-earned equity based on skin pigmentation, senior court judges demanding that only black lawyers appear before them in court, and so many more oppressive racist actions. Gayton cannot see past his own personal experience and worldview, and that's unfortunate. A president shouldn't be reading on the internet what you think of their dissatisfaction. But the biggest thing America did wrong was to believe this saying, white people are under siege. That is not true. Under siege? Those are your words, Gayton. Trump never said that. In his executive order, Trump said countless government policies designed to dismantle equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, and hateful rhetoric and government actions. Nothing about under siege. That's an interpretation on your part, not a statement of fact by Donald Trump. Trump reopened the U.S. refugee admissions program, previously frozen on January 20th, for Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. Now, if Gate McKenzie wants to claim there is not a single person in all of South Africa who falls into this category of being racially discriminated against because they're an Afrikaner, he's either disconnected from reality or he's being dishonest. Unfortunately, Minister McKenzie also has outdated information about South Africa's value to the world in mineral production. He said, we're number one when it comes to chrome. We're number one when it comes to platinum. We're number one when it comes to gold. Coal, I think we're number 3. Iron ore, I think we're number 1. We are a wealthy country, but it doesn't shiver down to the people. And this is a time that we as the GNU cannot miss this bus. Well, none of that has anything to do with the relationship with the U.S. It's not germane. What's your point here? Yes, South Africa is a top chrome producer, but the United States imports just $32 million annually. It's not a significant factor in a $30 trillion economy. Chrome is not as important as it once was. South Africa does matter in platinum production, but it's a fungible commodity sold on global markets where third parties will happily provide it to buyers. South Africa is no longer a major player in gold production. This is a myth. South Africans think that they matter in gold production. South Africa comes in only 9th globally in 2024, fluctuating between 6th and 10th place over the past decade. With barely 1/4 of China's production, South Africa is also not a top coal producer either. It produces only 3% of global coal output, a figure boosted by climate zealots destroying the U.S. coal industry and reducing our production, but we're still 4th largest in the world nonetheless. So while this subject is interesting, it's largely irrelevant to the conversation about U.S.-South Africa diplomatic relations. Now, I strongly suspect McKenzie is simply getting bad information. In the past, when I've seen that he's fully informed, he tends to stand up for what is right, moral, and just. His comments above are based on incomplete information. At least that's my assessment. I don't think he's intentionally saying these things. I think he's just been misled. The ANC, legacy South African media, and social media trolls may think they're winning because they have successfully hoodwinked millions of South Africans, black, white, and brown. I mean, the comments that I hear on my program, oh, this is for farmers. There's no mention of farmers in the executive order. Oh, this is only for this group of people. No, it's only for this, only for that. Oh, they'll give us free land. They'll pay for our flights, and I want to go today. I've called the embassy for 2 days. It's the weekend. They're closed. I mean, the people have been hoodwinked by the media and by radio in South Africa. Misleading people about this is, well, I want asylum. It's not asylum. It's a refugee program. Well, I have skills. It doesn't matter. Skills don't matter for asylum seeking. It's about being persecuted. Well, you can only go if you've actually been, raped or murdered, or I can't go if you've been murdered, but when you've been a victim of it. No, the mere fear of it, the mere fear of persecution can be sufficient to qualify for refugee status. Ask 160,000 Afghans. As I said, the ANC, legacy South African media, and social media trolls may think they're winning because they've successfully hoodwinked millions of South Africans. But the intentional disrespect towards the United States and Donald Trump are foolish. If anyone ever learned anything about Trump, it is do not cross him. He's kind and generous until you slight him. Frankly, given the ANC's behavior and the media's yellow journalism in South Africa since Trump's February 2nd tweet, it's amazing South Africa is still a member of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act and has not yet been sanctioned. Amazing indeed. Now, what say you, South Africa? Cheers.